Boom. Boom. Part 3.
Yeah.
Part 3.
P3, extinct animal game. What you got, Papa
This
Patrick?
is a lot of fun. This extinct animal game. Here's how it works. I'm your host, Papa P, Papa PP, Papa Pen Tapper. You know who I am. All right, so Forrest and I and Retep love talking about extinct animals and Lazarus species, which means species that are extinct and come back from the dead.
That's right.
Happens almost every day. A lot of times it's an insect or a worm, but it's happened with some big ones. So I'm going to throw animals out. They're going to weigh in. Could it still be around based on its habitat? Could it be hiding? Number 1, 1852, this very cool flightless bird was deemed extinct. It lived in the North Atlantic. The Great Auk, A-U-K. I know, Retep, you know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Now, that is not a photograph of it, Retep. That is actually a drawing, because 1852.
Fuck off.
Go ahead.
What do you think? I'm some kind of idiot?
No,
You do, don't you?
I don't.
Well, first of all, it's clearly a penguin, so definitely still exists. Forrest?
End of discussion. Nice. Well played. It's this kind of flawless logic, which is like, why did I go to school? I
Yeah,
should have just learned from Retep.
Nobody should be learning from me.
Street
but-
smarts mean a lot in the field
do.
of biology, dude.
Yeah. So I did... An interesting story. I did believe that this animal still existed, and so much so that I launched a full-scale expedition to the Faroe Islands to search for this creature, based on some information that leaked about some fishermen going onto an island and finding very, very large eggshells, right? And not fossilized, not destroyed, eggshells that were relatively modern. So the great auk, which was a large flightless bird from the North Atlantic, not a penguin, but very, very much so looks like a penguin and behaves like a penguin, but convergent evolution. They just evolved to look like that. They're not actually related to penguins. They would nest in these colonies of up to like hundreds of thousands on these remote islands, right? And what happened was during the time of down, we would go and harvest them in the gazillions and pull their feathers up for pillows and blankets and whatnot. And their colonies would collapse, right? And because their colonies were isolated on these little islands, it kind of all made sense that they were gone. But they used to have a massive range. I mean, from like Newfoundland to Greenland. I mean, Iceland, all of Norway and Scandinavia. I mean, huge, huge, huge range with lots of little tiny islands and outcroppings. And anyway, this information came up in about... I want to say 2011, 12, something like that, of this egg, right? And it was like pretty verified to be auk egg. Like it was large pieces of shell from nothing else that could be out there. So I launched this full-scale expedition. We went to the Faroe Islands, and we got on this amazing old Viking ship that was 300 years old and went to those islands where they found it, plus a whole bunch of others. And I will tell you this. I do not believe that the great auk is extant. I believe that it has been eradicated from the planet. I think they found some very old shell that somehow got missed, and very sad because this is one of those animals that you look at and go, we couldn't wipe them out if we tried. There are billions. It's like the passenger pigeon, or it's like if you go outside and look at pigeons in the city and you're like, we couldn't get rid of these things if we tried. Well, the truth is, even when you have animals that are in the bioabundance of millions and millions of them, it doesn't take much to crash their populations, and that's what we did. So, end of story. I say great auk is not a penguin, science, fact,
Disagree.
and is extinct.
Definitely penguin.
All
Not
right.
extinct.
Okay. Well, we'll see who's right. I don't know how,
Yeah.
but maybe one day we'll see who's right. All right. So this next one is a super cool animal. Huge plant-eating sea mammal. Grew up to 30 feet long. I mean, that's essentially the size of like
It's a whale.
a gray whale, right? Like,
Yep, it's a whale. Basically the
huge
size of a
animal.
whale.
Looks very much like a manatee in a lot of ways. The Steller's sea cow, which was deemed extinct in 1768. Thoughts on this?
Okay. Wow. I mean, always with the ocean stuff, from the layman me, it's just like the ocean is so big. There could be one of these somewhere, or two. I mean, it's just
Or two.
Be good to
No
have
more,
two.
just one or two.
We only look at 5% of the ocean. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this guy is hanging out with manatees and then just going off whenever people come around.
So this animal, Steller sea cow, is it's one of the original animals that sparked my fascination with extinct creatures. A 30-foot-long manatee that exists or existed in is it the Bering Strait? It's those little tiny islands. It might be the Aleutian Islands. I can't remember. It's those tiny little islands between Alaska and Russia.
North Pacific. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and anyway, there's legitimately one town up there where people live where the Steller sea cow used to be. And now, by the way, Retep, the reason that they went extinct is because they were hunted for food, right? There's 30-foot-long dugong swims up to you, and you got nothing to eat. You bop it and you eat it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
in this little tiny town where these people live on this Aleutian island, I believe it's the Aleutians, there's a population of about 600 people, right? Mm-hmm. Of the 600 people that live on that island, I believe 80 or 90% of them are fishermen. Like, there's nothing else to do there, right? That's what they do. Of those 80 or 90% that fish, I believe it's another 80 or 90%, because it's kind of weird the way it's written, that believe they have seen this animal. So in the entire Bering Sea, in this entire creature's range, there's 600 people that live there. Of those 600 people, I'm making these numbers up, 450 of them fish. Of those 450, 400 of them think they've seen one. So it's like, hold on a second. I get it. It's a 30-foot-long animal. You'd think you'd see it really easily, but they don't live in clear waters. They live in murky waters. They live up in the Arctic Circle where nobody's fucking diving. Like, who's going in to look for them, right? Mm-hmm. They might have at one time been super abundant, but in today's world, nobody's looking for them. Nobody's hunting for the oil trade up there anymore or necessarily targeting these things for meat. It was just in 2018 that we found an entire walrus colony that we didn't know existed. Like, they're about, walrus is only about half the size of that. But still, we found something like 4,000 walrus that we didn't even know existed. We're like, whoa, look at that pink beach. Oh, that pink beach is thousands of these fucking giant potato animals, right? And it's like, those are animals that haul out onto the beach. And we just found that population in that same region. So I've had a fascination with the Steller sea cow for a long time. Logically, no, it's gone. It shouldn't exist. It's donezo, right? It's a 30-foot-long fucking big floaty animal. But for some reason, and this is where, as a scientist, I have to fight these emotions sometimes. But for some reason, as long as I've been obsessed with animals on the edge of extinction or wrongfully deemed extinct, I've had this little gut tinge that I've always wanted to go and search for the Steller sea cow because part of me just believes it's still there.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's imagine how cool that would be to see. Like, if you were just in a small boat and seeing a 30-foot-long manatee-looking animal just chilling at the surface.
Next to an iceberg.
So big. Yeah.
Right?
Huge.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah. All right.
So-
Well, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that just for the wild times instead of
We should.
on TV.
Sounds great.
Let's.
It'd be a lot of fun.
We're going to need some donations, though, unless you guys want to pay for it.
No, we'll get it on the merch. We'll be
Yeah,
fine.
we'll do
on
it
the merch,
on the
yeah.
t-shirts. All right, we'll go through these next ones. Okay, getting back in time now. Now we're moving pretty far back.
Yes, that one was the furthest we've done, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're getting further back. So now we're going back to
love it.
1400.
Damn.
One of the coolest animals I think that's ever lived. There's a fully stuffed or taxidermied one in a museum in New Zealand. Just a massive, massive bird. It was 12 feet tall, taller than a basketball hoop. Hunted to extinction when the island was colonized. The giant moa.
Okay.
The giant moa. So that
Yeah.
is, I believe it may even be the same taxidermied one with some actors. That's obviously not a real photo because it hasn't been seen in 620 years.
Right.
New Zealand, I've been there, traveled around there a lot. There's some pretty nice pockets of wilderness.
Yep.
This thing is massive.
Yep.
So what do you think, Retep? Could the moa
Well,
still be out there?
I'm going to be quick on this one because I know everybody wants to know what the fuck he's doing with that egg. And also, he's the expert. There's no possibility, logically. It's been 600 years. I'm just going to say this one is a goner.
Okay.
So, in short, I completely agree with Retep. It's a super interesting animal. It used to be hunted by a gargantuan eagle that would also hunt these animals. And so, New Zealand has no, natural mammals, right? So it was colonized by birds. And birds spent millions of years there evolving. And all of a sudden, we had this 12-foot-tall ostrich and this eagle with a 25-foot wingspan that would hunt it. So, in New Zealand which now to me, and I'm sorry if you're a Kiwi and you're listening to this, is one of the most boring places to visit wildlife speaking on Earth, because there was some dope ass shit there. They had these fucking massive birds and massive eagles and everything. Now there's like a couple pigeons and, you know, like the odd parrot, and there is some cooler shit than that for sure. But my point is just like, New Zealand was like the perfect place for like going back in time in a bird's world. And unfortunately, I don't believe either the giant Haast eagle or the moa still exists. But I do have something incredibly cool, which is from when Patrick and I went to Madagascar, and the only other giant flightless bird that ever lived, the elephant bird, which was basically just like a moa, laid one of these things a very long time ago. And this is, you know, a bunch of pieces of shell put back together. It's probably my most prized possession. I absolutely love it. For comparison, when I put it back, that's an ostrich egg that it sits next to. You know, so we all think of the biggest egg in the world as an ostrich egg. This is like a dozen ostrich eggs. It's super cool.
It's
so,
exponentially bigger.
Just imagine.
Like 20 of
And think about this. The moa was 20% bigger than an elephant bird. So
they were huge. Yeah.
So when this thing came out of the shell, imagine that. It would be like the size of a 12-year-old. Like,
it would be the size of a full like rooster,
like a turkey. Yeah, it's like a turkey walking out of a shell, and you're like, oh, geez, and you're a baby.
Think about too the people that colonized New Zealand first, right? They had just crossed the Pacific, which I've crossed the Pacific in giant ships, and it's terrifying. Right? Like doing it in small handmade canoes that are sewn together.
Right.
You get to this island, and that thing, which has never seen a person and has no fear of predators, is just abundant and walking around. You're like, we've reached heaven.
Yeah.
And you're starving. So of course
Thanksgiving would have taken on a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right. So that one,
I mean,
we think is gone.
Well, all of our Kiwi listeners, I know you're riled up right now. I know we have a bunch. They're always chatting in the Discord. Forrest, you have caused a war. Guaranteed there's going to be Kiwis in the comments defending their lands.
Whatever. You know, they've got sheep.
Oh, man, I can't wait for these comments.
All right, so next, we're going to jump ahead, Will, to number 2. So this one... all right. We're going pretty far back.
You sound thrilled with this
No, but
one.
here's why. Because part of its range was Northern Europe, and that's what gives it its name. But it also lived in Siberia, which is a pretty big place. There's parts that are very populated. There's parts that are very desolate in Siberia.
Very true.
Very desolate. So this was a super cool animal. It was deemed extinct, unfortunately, over 5,000 years ago. It was a prehistoric animal, I guess, if you will. I don't know if it's prehistoric because I think there's an actual date for that. A 7-foot tall, 2,000-pound elk called the Irish elk.
Oh, the Irish elk, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this one is definitely still around. I've seen one out here in Reseda.
Okay.
Zero question. I know those antlers. I'd know them anywhere.
Look how cool that thing is. That is
It's
a
so
beast.
cool.
Look how jacked
Dude,
it is, too. Like, look at the musculature in
honestly,
it. Yeah, incredible.
It's bananas. It's ripped, legit ripped.
Yeah, so look, it's extinct, right? Like if those things were running around Ireland drinking Guinness, I think we'd all know about it. But that being said, I know there is some very cool work being done similar to the quagga because we have very well preserved, like you're looking at there, DNA from that animal, and they are not very far evolutionarily speaking from like Thule elk, or that might not be the right species, but other large species of elk. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of those animals that's basically waiting for the science to catch up, like in the sense of 5-10 years from now when we're like, hey, you know, through gene sequencing, you know, through CRISPR, things like that, all we have to do is pull this out and put that in. Then, you know, this mother Thule elk will actually have a baby that almost perfectly resembles the Irish elk. So
Wow.
It's definitely extinct. It might not be extinct, you know, for our grandkids. They might be running around, you know, pastures in Ireland by then. So something to consider. Pretty interesting.
Be scared.
That's
Be
pretty
scared,
cool.
everybody.
Also, a weird really interesting way that they think it went extinct. I misspoke. So it went extinct in 5000 BC, so over 7,000 years ago. Oh. They think that it went extinct because as we entered from the mini ice age into the warmer period, as the ice started to retreat, that its diet changed because different plants started to flourish, and those plants lacked calcium. And so it didn't have enough calcium in its diet because of the shifting temperature, because of global warming back then. Yeah. And so it couldn't grow its antlers anymore. And then it was useless against predators. And so they think that was the biggest contributor.
Oh, interesting.
That's interesting.
That's a great point, not to dogleg us too much, but like, so the great auk, which we talked about a couple animals ago, right? Scientists believe that animal was literally on its way to extinction. Like, we just sped it up because and that's what happens with animals, right? They evolve and then they drop off. Sometimes they evolve into something else. Sometimes they just become extinct because they can no longer, something shifts, the habitat changes, blah, blah, blah. And this is not, like, I don't want to promote any kind of, like, extinction denialism or being like, yeah, it's great, let's fucking wipe everything out because something else will grow back. That's not how it works. But it is interesting that when you take humans out of the equation who have sped up this extinction process by something like 600 times, animals still come and go. Things like the Irish elk, which it sounds like, and I don't know about it, Patrick, it was too far back for me to research, that was going extinct regardless of human beings, right? Like, that was happening because the ice was shifting. Humans didn't wipe out the dinosaurs. That happened because of a major event. So it's like things come and go, and there's kind of these ticking time bombs on every single species. It just sucks that we as human beings have sped up that process something like 600 times.
Yeah, that seems like a lot.
It's frightening also because it's going to happen to us. So there's that to think about as well.
For sure.
Sure.
It will.
Yeah.
Go now.
Well, I mean, we know that for a fact. We know our sun is going to expire theoretically
but that's
in about 4 billion years.
4 billion years.
Which,
I'm talking sooner than that, mate.
It's not our problem. It's not our problem. We'll be gone.
Okay.
But here's the thing, man. It's like we do all this stuff to better ourselves and to be healthy and eat organic and, like, don't drink every night. But it's like, dude, like, the sun's going to expire, man. Let's just have a drink.
Just lay back, dude.
Yeah,
just
your logic for drinking every night is fantastic. It's a good reason.
A glass of booze. All right, so last one, and quickly, yes or no, and then I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
The coolest extinct animal, I became fascinated with this animal when I was a little kid and went to the Museum of Natural History in New York. The Smilodon, otherwise known as the saber-toothed cat.
I was like, what the fuck's a Smilodon? Okay.
Yeah. It went extinct in 10,000 BC, but it did range all throughout this great country of North America and South America. It was a massive tiger with huge fangs. It could open its jaws to 120 degrees. But again, just like Thylacine, a very weak jaw.
Yep.
Fascinating.
So thoughts? Could there be a saber-toothed cat out there? Yes or no?
Well, I mean, obviously not. But honestly, like, out of all of them, because it's in North America and South America, and I never really thought about, like, a big cat just roaming around North America up here.
Yeah.
And so for some reason, it really, like, hit me. I was like, damn, this thing is cool.
That's
yes,
fucking cool.
It is very cool. We used to have more large game in North America than the savannas of Africa, believe it or not, Ritep.
That's crazy to think about.
And no, definitely not still alive. Bumsky, super cool. Would love to see one.
Just not in the wild. Not in my backyard.
They were fucking huge, by the way.
Would.
They were absolutely huge. So here's the follow-up, the quick follow-up. Let's say scientists were like, hey, we've cloned him. We didn't tell you about it because we didn't want to get laughed at. But we've actually got, like, this farm with 100 saber-toothed cats on it. This was their home, North America. Should we go ahead and release them?
Are you asking me? Or
both of you
Forrest?
guys. Should we repopulate the Smilodon?
Of course
if we could?
not. I mean, are you kidding me? These things would take over everything. We'd all be eaten and killed. Well, they do have weak jaws, though, so maybe we'd be okay.
I'm
going
going
to say
yes.
no.
Hard yes. Is it the right thing to do ecologically? No. Is there enough prey source for them? No. Are they going to turn to eating humans as their only means by which to survive? Of course. Let's let them go.
Yeah.
I'm into it. Let's see what happens. Survival
All
of
right,
the
you
fittest.
changed my mind. I'm in.
All right, well, if you've liked the Extinct Animal game, let us know, because there's obviously thousands more that we can talk about. This was just a short list. So let us know.
Yeah.
We'll do more if you like it. If you hate it,
Yeah.
let Forrest know.
Yeah, just me. Nobody else.
Also, if you liked it, tell a friend. about it, send them a link to this video. Pat, you look creepy. Good night, everyone.